So I want to welcome everybody here today. This is our Go on the Lewis and Clark Trail Citizen Science Project kickoff, basically. So we're here today to introduce to you a collaborative effort between NASA's Globe Observer Program and the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. And I want to welcome everybody who's here, all the trail partners. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come to this webinar and to consider joining us in this effort. So I'm Ashley Danielson. I'm here in Omaha at the conference table. I'm the volunteer and partnership specialist for the trail. So many of you have probably seen my name and email before, and I'm excited that you're here today, and hopefully we can really get to know each other and do something great with this project. So for our webinar today, we have a few objectives. We want to introduce the Go on the Lewis and Clark Trail Citizen Science Campaign. Show you how to use the Globe Observer app, which the campaign is a part of, and then become familiar with the resources that the Lewis and Clark Trail and Globe Observer program will help you to be successful with this program. So the Go on the Trail Citizen Science Challenge is going to run from June 1st, 2019 to September 2nd, 2019. If you were a trail partner last year, you may remember that the trail tries to do a summer science or summer social media campaign every summer where we focus on one thing. Last year it was the traveling stuffed dogs along the trail. Many of you remember that. And so this year we're going to do a citizen science campaign. And the reason that we decided to work with NASA and the Globe Observer Project is because the Lewis and Clark story, one of the major components was documenting for science. So they were charged with journaling, keeping records, documenting land cover, plants and animals, and those sorts of things. And so we decided to partner with the Globe Land Cover app because that's what they do. They document for science. So I hope you'll see by the end of this webinar why we decided to work with them and how we think it will help us as a Lewis and Clark Trail to further the Lewis and Clark story. This is a map that was done prior to the Lewis and Clark expedition. And I mostly put this up here to show you that when they took off, especially from Fort Mandan, there wasn't a lot to go off of. They didn't have GPS like we had today, and they didn't even have a good map. You can see most of the Pacific Northwest is just blank. And so this is the map before Lewis and Clark. And now I want to show you the next map. And this is actually a map of the Globe Observer land cover. So this is the Globe Observer visualization. So this is where the data that we're collecting is put onto. And the reason I want to show you this is because you can see very clearly there that most of the sections where the Lewis and Clark Trail are blank. So this is an area where NASA needs help documenting land cover for science, and we're here to help. And you can see from this map that the demand is really, the need is there to document along the Lewis and Clark Trail. I should take a step back and say land cover is defined as the physical material on the ground. So grasses, waters, asphalt, those sort of things. Here's the map of the trail. Many of you are aware that the Lewis and Clark Trail was recently extended in legislation. So we have our 3,700 miles that has been the designated trail, and we're adding 1,200 more miles. That's the green section. So we're very excited to work on this program with NASA, and we're excited that you're here with us to do it today. The Park Service and the Lewis and Clark Trail in particular has been working with NASA for several years. Last year, we sent a toy dog to space, and we also worked on this program, which is a story map where NASA provided us with satellite images, and we paired that up with our with historical landmarks on the ground. And so our work this year with the Globe Observer app is intending to take this a step further and validate the satellite data with on-the-ground observations. So what's in it for you and your site? That's very important. We hope that this campaign will give you an opportunity to reach new audiences. The Globe community has a lot of different audiences, education programs, citizen scientists, all sorts of things. We hope to get new audiences out to your site. We want to get people more engaged with your individual sites and also with the Lewis and Clark Trail as a whole. And hopefully by this program, you'll be able to make a clearer connection between your local resource and the larger trail. We also want to help draw people to lesser known sections of your site. So maybe there's an area that you want people to discover that they haven't yet. There's a way with your observation station to do that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. we also we just want to get people outside. You know, we want people to go outside and explore, see what's going on. And the final reason is that we hope that you'll find this a very exciting opportunity to collaborate with NASA and the National Park Service. Here at the Lewis and Clark Trail, we've had a great experience so far working with the folks from NASA, and we hope that to extend that to our partners, you, our partners. So here's a look at the observation station. I'm not going to talk about this too much right now. I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek about what it's going to be. I want to pitch to Eric at NASA Goddard to talk a little bit about how the land cover citizen science helps NASA science and science in general.
Thank you, Ashley, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to your folks and to people who hopefully will be engaging us and helping us. My name is Eric Brown de Colston. I'm a scientist at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. I'm actually coming to you from the NASA Land Cover Land Use Change Science Team meeting in Rockville. We're telling my colleagues, my peers, all about citizen science and how to get more scientists involved. But here, so in collaboration with the GO team and Peter Nelson at Oregon State University, he's the lead on the GO land cover app. So just to say a couple of things. First of all, I mean, when you showed that map, Ashley, I mean, as a geographer, I always love looking at that. But I kept thinking to myself that, you know, if Lewis and Clark only had the perspective of space, they may have gone in a much straighter line, perhaps, than they did. Although they still had to go on rivers, obviously. But yeah, so I'm a scientist. I study land cover and land use and how they're changing. So land cover is, the physical nature of the land. So whether it's a forest, a woodland, a grassland, savanna, urban areas, crops, you name it. So we study that from the vantage of space, and we're studying that as it changes over time with satellites. And so we're really excited to be able to work with you guys and to work with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail on this really exciting activity. And just essentially trying to tell you that, again, the contributions that you make and that your visitors will make will not only help us, the scientists, me and Peter, and others doing the science, but also then engage them in what we hope is, genuine science. So this is, genuine science activities that can actually help NASA. And so the really nice part that I really love about working with citizens and students is that sort of two-way street. So the scientists benefit from the measurements, and then the citizen science are making measurements, contributing to science, to NASA science, and getting out there in the places that you guys love and that you care about. So the national parks, National Historic Trail. I wish I could get out there more often myself, but it's a beautiful place to do science. So we thank you in advance for your contributions, and we will be, excuse me, we will be with you along for the ride to help you maybe do a little bit more in-depth analysis, to give you answers to questions on science, and any other things that we can assist you with. So it's a very exciting opportunity, and I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to your participation. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I'd like to turn it over now to Ryan Cooper. He's the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail geographer.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ryan Cooper. I'm the geographer for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. And I just wanted to share a few reasons why Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail is excited about doing this Globe Observer project. First, trail awareness and natural, cultural, and recreational resources are top priorities for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. So it's a great opportunity for people to get out and learn more about the trail and learn more about the resources of the trail. Second, the Go on a Trail project is an opportunity to bring increased awareness and also reach new audiences and get people to actually go out and experience the trail. The project also provides additional and engaging recreational opportunity, actually getting people outside, and the opportunity to collect valuable resources, data through citizen science. And this data is actually going to be used by National Park Service and NASA decision makers. So that's extremely helpful. And lastly, through the Go on a Trail project experiences, people are more likely to actually care about the trail and care about the resources and become stewards of the trail. So these are some of the reasons why Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail is really excited about this project.
Thanks, Ryan. Turn it over to you, Holly.
Thank you, Ashley. So my name is Holly Cole. I manage the Globe Observer program, and I wanted to introduce you to our team and tell you a little bit about who we are and why we want to partner with you. So as Ashley pointed out, here are the, on the left here, you see the Globe land cover observation sites throughout the history of the Globe program, which I'll tell you about a little bit more in a moment. Here on the right is the trail, and you cover some of our gaps nicely. But the other point I wanted to make with this is that when Lewis and Clark set out, they were making a transect of the continent. So when we go and take observations or we want to take measurements of what's on the ground, on the land, one common way to do that is to go to that place, map out a square or an area, and then walk in a line across that area. And that line is a transect, and then you sample along that line, and that becomes a representative sample of that whole broad area. Well, looking at the map, the Lewis and Clark Trail is a fantastic transect, albeit a little bit crooked one, of the continent. And so it will be for us, a really fantastic opportunity to get a sampling of different land cover types across North America. Globe Observer is part of the Globe program. The Globe program is a broad citizen science and education program that engages students and citizen scientists around the world in collecting environmental data in support of earth science. Globe Observer is a small part of Globe. It's a small part of Globe. It's based on a free app called Globe Observer, and it guides people through the process of taking some of the Globe observations. All of the observations that we take are connected to NASA science and satellite data in some way, or we're working to make that connection, and some of them are further along than others. For part of this challenge, one of the things you can measure with Globe Observer is land cover, so what's on the land around you. And I have here a screenshot of our land cover home screen. The app itself contains training to show you how to take an observation. So it guides you through that whole process. You get trained, and then it reminds you on each step on each screen what you're supposed to be doing now. The end goal is we want publishable research improving land cover mapping. So we're not doing this just for fun, though it is kind of fun to do. We want to improve the way we create satellite-based land cover maps by filling in details and helping us verify what's happening when we detect change. So to do that, I just wanted to give you a quick sense of what you'd be doing with Globe Observer. The land cover protocol, the tool you'll be using, you go outside, you take pictures of the land around you, you tell us what's in the pictures, and then you tell us how that compares to what our satellite thinks, or what our satellite-based maps say is there. You say, yes, it's the same, or no, it's not. And that's essentially it. I am going to hand off to my colleague, Kristen Weaver, now to give you a more detailed view of how to make a land cover observation and what all is involved in it.
Hi. So as Holly said, I'm Kristen Weaver. I help her run the Globe Observer app along with a large team of wonderful other people. And the goal with the app was to try to kind of take advantage of the technology that we have that people carry around in their pockets and do some of the things that make it easier to collect data, things like getting your GPS location and things that were harder to do before we had this technology. So you can see there on the left, we've got 4 tools in the app overall, and we're focusing on land cover for this one. So the basic steps are to download the app, which of course you would need a Wi-Fi or an internet connection for, and then you do have to register with an email address. You can see the land cover main screen there, and those 3, the trainings that Holly mentioned. This particular screen shows that the land cover observer training has been completed. That's the one just for taking basic pictures. Then we have a land cover expert about classifying the images, and then the satellite observer knowing kind of how to compare those things. And all that training is within the app. For the most part, you can use the app offline once you download and register it. And I know that's important for a lot of places along the trail and a lot of, park or visitor center sites that might be a little bit more remote, that might not have great cell service. If you're going out and walking on a trail and trying to make an observation, once you've set up the app, you can make your observations while offline. The one thing that doesn't work offline is some of the satellite mapping, but that's taking the pictures, and you can start the process out in the field, and then you will of course need cellular or Wi-Fi data or the connection to send the data afterwards. The phone will fill in the date, time, and location. So that's, again, taking advantage of this technology that we have, the GPS in your phone, to fill in that information. And then we need some information about surface conditions. Most of them are pretty obvious. Is there snow or ice, standing water, muddy, those things you see. And the reason we ask this is because these are things that can affect the way the satellites are observing the ground. And the one that people have the most questions about is the leaves on trees. So if there's more than 50% of the deciduous trees around you have leaves on them. So that's the one we get the most questions about. But for the most part, this step is pretty straightforward. So it's just about kind of defining your location and the general conditions that are nearby. So then this is the first part, as Holly alluded to, is the taking a picture. So this is kind of showing just a screen recording of what it looks like. The app will use the compass in your phone so you can guide yourself to the right direction for taking each photo. And then you can see that bar line up that bar so you're facing in the right direction, and then you can adjust up and down because we are focusing on the land cover. We have a clouds tool, but right now we want you focusing on the land cover. It's not in this little GIF, but we also have you take pictures up and down, and the goal is to have at these observation stations that we've mentioned, and we'll talk about a little bit more, that you actually get the observation station in your down photo. And the photos are actually everything that needs to be done, because that's useful. That can document the land cover, and if people take repeat observations or multiple people taking observations at the same place, we can actually see the change over time. So that's all that is required to do, is take the photos. But for those who have a little bit more time and want to do a little bit more, so after you take your pictures, you can either classify immediately or save the pictures and classify later. But this gives scientists a little bit more information. So categorizing the pictures, what you see in the pictures. Grass, trees, bushes, water, and you see the percentage sliders there for each direction, looking at the pictures that you just took. And you notice that it can be more than 50 or 100%, because you might have a situation where you also have a vertical structure. You might have grass underneath and trees above, and so estimating the percentages. And this part is useful because it just makes it easier for scientists finding the pictures that they're looking for. So the pictures by themselves are valuable, but we can add some value to the photographs by having a little bit more information about the photographs. And then on the far right, you see the My Map that gets created. So as people make observations, they'll see their own observations, but they actually will also see other people who have the observations made by other people in their area, as well as the satellite classification of that area. And that's where you can note whether what you observed in this space is different than what the satellite had classified it, or and you can also compare to what other people have seen, and also see if there are gaps that need to be filled in the map that nobody's made an observation. You can go and make an observation in that location.
Kristen, I might add here, this is also where you can see what the satellite observed in that area and tell whether or not that matches with what you observed. If you clicked on that little layers tab there, you would see the ability to add the satellite layer underneath your own observations and see how those compare. And there are a lot of reasons they might be different, and those reasons do not include that you're wrong. It's just different scale and change over time.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. There's a good example of that is in an area that the satellite might have classified as an urban area, but there's a green space within that urban area that is not, that is finer detail than the satellite mapping can get. And then this is just an example of an observation and what it looks like on the Globe Visualization System website. So you can see the pictures that were taken in the directions up and down. And it's a little bit small to see, but you can see the classification that has been given that based on whether you said there were trees or grass or water, or what appears in the picture. And then the images are there so that you can access your own images, but also if people are interested, they can also go in and look at other images that people have taken along the trail. Or even, when they get back home, one of the powerful things about this is if they learn about it at your visitor center or museum and do observations on the trail, they can take it back home and then do observations back at home as well.
Kristen, I just wanted to make a comment that as a oldish NASA scientist that is not very good with his mobile phone, like my kids are, that the tool is very usable, it's very simple to use, and it gives us, the data that we need. So just putting in a plug for the usability of it. If I can do it, I think anybody can.
And we have tried to make it as usable as possible, and we're always open to suggestions if people find things that don't quite work right. We're open to suggestions if we can, we can't fix everything, but we do our best. And of course, if you have any questions, if you think of something later on in the webinar, you can ask in the chat, but also, any of us who work on the program are available to answer questions as you're going along, or if things come up while you're using it this summer, we'll be available to also help answer your questions and troubleshoot things.
Okay, Peter also put in the chat box that the app has some different language options. So this could be an option if you have some visitors to your area that speak a different language. It is also available in some other languages. So I hope everyone's sticking with us. If you have any feedback or anything, feel free to put it in the chat box. We're going to go now to how can you participate, and there's two sections here. So first I'm going to go through how a visitor could participate, and then I'm going to talk about how your site and your staff can help encourage that participation. So the challenge itself goes from June 1st to September 2nd this summer. Now the Globe Observer program and the land cover will be available indefinitely. So just because you don't get a lot of participation during this time, you can keep collecting observations and keep encouraging people to collect observations. That's just the date of this particular challenge. So the way that a visitor would participate is they would go to the App Store and download the app. You need the email address. We already talked about that. The next part would be to collect points. So the way that we've structured this, and it is sort of a challenge, a game in some way, is that you take observations using the land cover observations. So there's 3 different ways to get points. One is to find an observation station and capture the station on your down photo. So that's the logo that you see over there is going to be printed as a 2-foot round concrete sticker. If you were at your site last year, you remember that we mailed out selfie spots. It's the same size and same shape. And so we would be asking you as visitor centers, museums, to find a place for this observation station outside and encourage visitors to go there and to take land cover observations. One reason we decided on the observation station is because those repeat observations in the same area are very important. Also, from the Lewis and Clark Trail side, we see this as a great way to encourage your visitors to go where you want them to go, what you want them to see. So maybe you have an overlook, maybe you could put this at a trailhead, wherever you want, that would be a good place for a land cover observation. So in our scoring system, we weighted that higher. We weighted that 4 points, the most you can get. So that was a way to encourage people to get out to your sites. You can also earn 2 points if you go to a designated point along the trail. We're still working on this map, but by the time this goes live in June, we're going to have a map with certain points along the trail that people can go to that location and take an observation. And then 1 point for any observation along the Lewis and Clark Trail. So we hope that this will be a fun way to encourage people to get out, to earn points, and there will be small little prizes yet to be determined for that. So as we said, this is the observation station. It will be a 2-foot round concrete sticker that can go on concrete. I know last year some places put it on plywood and use it as a sign. So if you need help on thinking about where this should go, you can ask us, ask anyone, me or one of the people. We'd be happy to give you some ideas. And we hope that there's going to be enough information between the observation station and some of the other materials that people will understand what we're asking of them. I see Eric asked about the historical sites. So the list of the designated points on the map will include some of our high potential historic sites. So places like Spirit Mound in South Dakota. So that'll be somewhere where we want things to go. Somebody asked, where do we obtain the observation station stickers? That's a great question. At the end of this webinar, I would like to get everybody's email information if you're interested, so I can make sure I mark that down. And we are going to be mailing these out to many of our partner sites, but I want to make sure if you're interested that we have your email and your site contact information. So if you want to put that into the chat now, maybe somebody can start collecting those. So that's where you'll get the observations. So they will be mailed from our office. We're going to have them printed and then mailed out. Okay, so there's the observation station. And then, you know, one of the other steps is to submit your observations. We really want people to turn those in, and the people who get the most points will get a prize package. That makes it sound really good. We'll have to get some good stuff for the prize package. We're also aware that that we want to encourage stewardship and best practices when we go out. So we want to, you know, we have a little tagline: leave no trace, take only observations. Go on a trail and stay on it. We want to encourage people to be safe. Staying on marked trails is important to protect ecosystems and reduce your risk of dangerous plants and animals. So that's very important for us to know. So those last slides are how a visitor would participate. So what the trail and NASA are going to provide to sites is are these things to help you get involved with the campaign. So we can provide an observation station. We could possibly provide more depending on what the locations were. We can talk about that separately. We're going to have a poster. We saw that right at the beginning of the webinar. I should have put it on here. I'm sorry. We're also going to have postcards that are going to have the information that you just saw on them. So you'll be able to hand out these postcards to people, and they'll have all the instructions, what the app is, where they should go, and then you can direct them to your observation station or anywhere along the trail. And then we're going to have some stickers like the one you see here, and those are going to be for people who participate. So if you have people who do an observation, hand out stickers for that. So these are the products. This is what we want to offer to you to help you implement this program. And if there's something else you need or a question you have, please let us know. There's a lot of great people working on this team, and we're happy to help you and assist you. And we hope you'll be interested in coming alongside us for this. So the assistance that's available are the app training materials. So I myself have done the app, and I am also not very tech savvy, and it's pretty easy. So that's good. And then access to NASA and National Park Service staff. So everybody from the NASA side and our side, I mean, everybody's been great. So I really want to encourage you not to be afraid to ask questions and to find out what, if you need help or you just don't understand something, please reach out to us, because we really want to be a resource to help make this a successful campaign. And then the outreach products. So we hope to have a good amount of postcards and some posters and things that you can do to really outreach to your communities, whether it be school groups, summer camps, you know, just general visitors, whatever it is, we want to be here to help you. So that's it. I'm done with my part of the speech. I want to hear from you. If anybody wants to ask questions, or I want to know, are you interested? Is this something you think could work at your site or in your area?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we could utilize in our area. And our department would be excited to partner with all of you on doing that.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to introduce yourself, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm Stephen Kinzer with the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation. I'm stationed at Hell's Gate State Park, which has a Lewis and Clark Discovery Center that was built during the bicentennial.
Thank you.
And something else I just would like to mention, it's a little bit out of the scope of this webinar, but we did last month release an informal education toolkit on our website that's for each of the protocols. So if you know this sounds good, but you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to do more stuff with land cover, we actually have some activities. If you do interpretive programs at your location, there are some additional resources that we have for Globe Observer that are available on our website. That's kind of, like I said, out of the scope of this particular activity, but if you decide you get excited, we have more things that you can do too.
Great, Kristen. Can you make sure I have the link to that so I can send it out in our partner materials when they go out?
Sure.
So this is Holly. One thing we wanted to ask you, this was a brief introductory webinar. We introduced the concept to you, but there's a lot of really interesting science associated with this. There are some additional things that we would really love to have interested sites help us with. And so I wanted to find out if you would be interested in more information, more information about the science, or a second webinar, a time to chat with us, whatever would be most useful to you. I'm curious what that would be. Like one thing that would really love, in addition to using the Globe Observer app to take observations at an observation station, is for a few sites to actually go walk a short transect. So you go out to the observation station and walk in a line north or northeast. We need to figure out exactly what the protocol is for, say 10, 15 meters. And every couple of steps, look down, write down what you're standing on, look up, tell us if you see trees overhead, and do that, for say 10 steps, and do that in each cardinal direction, and then provide that information. So then as we look at what citizen scientists are submitting from that observation station, we have a secondary source of information that tells us what is there in a more rigorous measurement system. We can see how people are using the app and taking that measurement, and how well they're doing it, telling us what's there. So, that's a little bit deeper. It's an activity you could do. It's designed to be done with kids. So you could do it with a school group ahead of time. You could do it just yourself, or you could do it as an interpretive activity. We're hoping that this whole thing is something that you can fold into your routine programming, or as part of what you would do anyway as you bring people outside and interpret your site. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd be happy to provide more information, more documentation about how to do it, and that sort of thing.
One other thing that I just say is that we will have our summer social media campaign will include all sorts of messages on land cover, documenting for science, things like that. So hopefully we can incorporate this into what you see all summer from the trail. Did you have a question, Tom?
Yeah, so if I were a site along the trail, I'm a museum or a state park or something, and can you walk me through, like, how do you see this working? So a visitor comes in, and we want to engage them with this. We want them to use this as a neat way to engage with the trail. Like, what are the steps to getting them, to get to the app and get out and do it? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I see it as a two-step process. First is that the site itself would have received an observation station and placed it somewhere. So maybe that's right out in front of the building or in an overlook or something. And then the second step is when somebody comes into the site, you'll have those postcards that you can hand them. And that includes the download information, the how to take an observation, and then it'll walk them through it. So there is a little bit of a gap. I understand that some people might not be able to download the app right at that time, but hopefully some will, and then they go out to the station and start observing. That's how I see it working.
And yeah, this is Eric. Sorry, I was having a couple of little technical difficulties. But the one point I wanted to make about the observation stations, so if you think about it in terms of the science, so we make a land cover map. and we don't, it's an estimation of the dominant land cover of that area. We don't know how accurate that is. I mean, the NPS does these vegetation mapping programs all over their units, and they also are trying to get an idea of accuracy. So by getting, these measurements, we start building confidence in our land cover maps. But then if you think about it just from a repeat observation, so let's say that you have this place, in a selected area outside your museum. So each visitor that makes an observation at that same spot essentially is getting an independent observation of the same spot. And then we're getting hundreds of different observations. So that allows us to see how consistent the app is, how consistent the result is if you have hundreds of people making the same measurement. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's hugely valuable for the science to kind of establish, all right, so if we give citizens a simple tool to assess this, how good is it for science? I don't know if that makes sense. So it's a really big contribution for us for Peter and I who do the science of land cover mapping, to have that kind of information. And I'm happy to talk a little bit more about the pacing if you'd like, Holly. But I know I don't know if people have questions or comments on the previous statement.
Thanks, Eric. I would love to see everyone put in the chat window. What are you thinking about this? What's a thought? Do you think it's doable, not doable? What would you need to be able to implement this at your site? I'd love to get some feedback from the people out there in the field who would actually be doing the work of implementing this. Thanks. Christine, thank you for your comment about doing it with teachers. I agree, the timelines just didn't work out. Although, even though the challenge itself will be over, this is something that can go on with teachers into the fall. So the app isn't gonna close, the need for those observations are still there. So even though the campaign itself is only the summer months, this would be a great project to implement with teachers from going forward.
And Christine, Globe does have a lot of really rich, wonderful resources for using the program with teachers. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe try it out with your regular guests this summer. And if it's something that looks like it could be really valuable to you, we can certainly connect you with that program so you have all those rich resources and support.
Okay. And Stephen, thank you. I'm excited to see how it works out.
All right, Stephen's on board. Thank you. And just to make the other comment that by the participation of you guys out in the field and the connection with the trail, I'll admit as a scientist we don't know all the final details of how these things will go, but we're hoping that the experience and the things that work and don't work for you in what we're trying will help us build confidence for doing this in the future as well. And so that's another important part is, so we want to be able to do this across many different areas, hopefully other park units in the future, we don't know. And so the work that you guys are doing will contribute to that being something of a more permanent nature. Thank
you. Anita Davis from NASA joined, and she reminded me, and this is a great thing, that this is a good the app is also a good way to help your visitors really connect with your site, but then they can also use it at their home, so they can compare and contrast. So it's a good way to get that place-based thought between their home, where they're visiting, other places they're visiting. So it's a neat way to make that connection. So thanks, Anita, for reminding me about that. Well, I hope that this isn't the end of our discussion, but the beginning, and we'll be very excited to stay in contact with you. If we don't already have your contact information, please feel free to leave it in the chat. I assume most of you heard about this through our partner news or our partner Facebook page, but I don't know that for sure. So I want to make sure that we have a way to be able to contact you and keep you in the loop as this partnership moves forward. Any final questions? Okay, thanks, Holly, Eric, Kristen, the whole NASA team. Thank you, everybody, for being here today, and we look forward to working with you this summer.